Good evening, everyone. Danny Orton here, the Soccer Expansion Project. First of all, just wanted to talk about what the project is all about. So let me just slide over this way a minute, look at one of my boards. So on the right-hand side, we have of these on these little post-it notes, we've got lots of cool things that help us as soccer people from any perspective: administrative, helping with players, coaches, retail, parents, developers. So anything that goes into being a good soccer person, a club, a coach, a player, that's the right hand side. And there's a group of experts that we're working to bring on board. More announcements soon, but we've got the likes of Soccer Profile, we're partnered with VO, we've got all sorts of scouting networks lined up through them as well. Stuart and Gary Monk. Gary, of course, was a Premier League manager. So we're excited to get these partners on board. On the left-hand side is everybody, and I've written traffic here. That's me included. But people looking to grow the game: players, coaches, clubs, DOCs, technical directors, parents, fans. And in the middle is this sort of portal, is what we're calling it, the Soccer Expansion Project that we're currently building. And the reason I'm doing it is because I like the idea of community and having a big area of impact. And having done this for a number of years, just to start to find a way to have a community of like-minded people, I think we all appreciate that. But bring to the table some expert knowledge from this right-hand side, some chat, some support, some PDFs, presentation, webinars, forums, offers, access, and educational resources to help us improve the game, improve ourselves, and expand the game because we love it. And even as a Leicester fan, we love it, right? Anyway, here's today's topic. I can find it on my Miro board, and this is a big one for me. And I'll start with a tweet that I saw from somebody saying, if somebody is upset regarding commitment from players, so you're about to do tryouts, don't be upset with players trying out for the clubs if you're asking them to retry out again. And I know within our club, we don't have players retry out. We're in a region where as the players get older, things get a little trickier because the player pool drops, and we're in the middle of central Pennsylvania. That's just how it is. So we work with most players. We don't put everybody on high-level teams. We offer them training spots if they wish, but and then the players compete. And we've helped several hundred players go on and play in college and have good high school careers as well. But that was the tweet. It was asking that question. Don't be upset with player commitment if you're also asking them to retry out. And then the second story is, it reminds me of a conversation I had with a coaching friend of mine. He's an A-licensed coach towards the Philly area. And he was driving one day because I asked him, I said, where are you driving to? And he said, tryouts. And I said, tryouts? I said, it's March. And he said, I know, Danny, it's crazy. And I was just trying to, and I've told people this story, and they go, yeah, tryouts, March. And nobody sort of questions why that's a problem. So I wanted to just put this timeline together, and I have somewhat of a sarcastic title. I don't want to be, off the cuff and being silly about it. I have a promise, the youth soccer timeline, a promise of long-term development. That's tongue-in-cheek. I'm not trying to be coy. I'm kind of just pointing out the fact that it's not that. And here's why. And going back to this situation. Let's say, for example, we take the start of a year. Let's say there are tryouts, right? Here they are. We're in June, July, that time frame. And we have tryouts. And the clubs have tryouts, and all the clubs have tryouts, right? And you'll hear things like player development and long-term development of your son or daughter, your soccer athlete. We are committed to your player. Look at all the players we've helped get better, have good careers, go and play in college, all these levels. This is why we're different. We train the process. We have a total soccer Renus Michaels approach, or whatever it might be. You'll hear all of that at this time. And I call that, again, I've just said it tonight. I call that the promise phase. This is what we've got for you. They're trying to recruit you as a player. And you have tryouts, and you have this big merry-go-round. And you say, okay, so then come July, excuse my doggy, the tryouts are in there, the rosters are announced, and the people that make it or been given slots, great. Some people will decline because there's this big merry-go-round and there's other clubs trying out and whatever else. And if you've got several good clubs in one area, good luck. In terms of finding, that's a whole other conversation about the player pathway in a certain geographic area, because it just doesn't happen. Everything gets thinned out. It's silly. Anyway, but let's say we get to July, teams are announced, and Parker, can you let the dog out, please? I'm in the middle of this. This is real-time recording, folks. Anyway, so at that point there, maybe there's a break. The kids will often the players often end up doing some camps. Maybe the club put together a little bit of a training session or a little bit of a get-together, maybe some couple of workouts in the summertime. And 98% of people then, certainly in this part of the state, head off to school soccer, high schools, middle schools, whatever it might be. And with school soccer being in place, let me pause for a second. Oh, there we go. With school soccer being in place, the club part now is just primarily the planning, preparation emails. You'll hear from clubs saying, we're getting ready. Once school stuff's done, let's get excited. Here we go. I've written this little bit of a arrow here because there tends to also be this towards the October timeframe. If school's not gone so well, and I know everybody's in different situations, I completely understand that. Some school programs, it works out well for kids for many reasons, and sometimes it doesn't for many reasons. But there can be this trend, and I've been part of that at times, where it's like we as club coaches get excited to get the kids back from their school programs because we feel like, there's some things that need fixing. And I've heard that from both ends. I've heard, I've been, I won't say a victim, that's the wrong word, but I've heard from folks I've known where they've said, players have come back to me and said, our club coach couldn't wait to break all the poor habits that we had taught them in high school. I'm a high school coach too, by the way. So I'm seeing it from both sides. So you have this sort of club versus school thing that's starting to happen towards the end of the school season. Anyway, not always, but I felt it. All right. And then as soon as school season ends, and that's, this is this sort of commitment phase. We're ready for you. Let's get going. Here we go. School's out. We're done with school soccer. Right. Here we go. I'm now committing to you November, December, that kind of thing. Quick question here. Is there an evaluation based on school load? So you've got a kid that's played 20 games in 7 weeks, which is another story, maybe for a school, and they've had to train and play and they are exhausted. And maybe they've done some camps earlier in this timeline, somewhere in here, and they've just finished the previous club season just before June. Is there an evaluation right now? Is there a conversation with a club coach, with a high school coach saying, hey, how did such and such do today or over the course of the school season? Do they need 3 weeks off? If they do, they should. Pros have 6 weeks off, by the way. But we'll just load the kids, won't we? We'll go from school. We've seen it. We've had overlaps. We've had these situations. Don't get me started on this. We've had this, right? Where that's happening at the same time. Like, whoa, what are we doing? Why have we got, kids doing 2 hours of high school training with their high school, sticking around at the same location and doing 2 more hours with their club? Come on, folks. Oh, sorry, I just got a little upset there. It's not good. So evaluation based on school load. Kid need a rest? Did the kid play much? Is the kid okay? Good to start training, coach? Yeah, great. Handshake. Thanks very much. Good luck. Here's, off you go to club training, not with my blessing as a high school coach, but it's a handoff, right? There you go. Here's a kid for the best of the kid. So now the club coaches are involved, and again, I'm a club director and a founder, so I'm seeing from both sides. And we go training 2, 3 times a week. This is November, December. This is the commitment phase. Here we go. We're into it. Systems, teams, technique, all this stuff. We're flying, right? We do it too. A couple of events. Maybe there's a couple of showcases for the older kids, November, December. Maybe there's a couple of tournaments. We've seen kids going to tournaments in November, December in the cold, and sometimes the kids are 7 and 8 years old. That's another conversation. But let's say they're a little older. Go to a couple of tournaments, get going, see what we got, get back into training January, February. And we're in this sort of evaluation phase now. We're getting ready for the bulk of league play, right? But hang on a minute. Let's just have a look what's just happened right now. Why? Hang on. I'm doing a double take. I'm not acting this out very well. But all of a sudden, tryouts are announced. Hang on a minute. Tryouts are announced for the team that I'm on right now in March. This is that conversation with my coaching friend. Yeah, Danny, it's crazy, he said, but It is what it is. Because if we don't have our tryouts in March, the other clubs are going to have tryouts in March, and we'll lose all our best players. So we've got to. So we'll make it February then. So then tryouts happen. So what happens at tryouts? Well, you asking all of your players to retry out. You don't invite them back. They've got to retry out because you want to improve your team. Long-term development, right? Is a player leaving you? Have they then gone and tried out for 2 or 3 other clubs and been recruited already? Are you planning on cutting anybody? Coaches have got this massive in and out situation right now with regard to who's staying and who's coming, and the team's unsettled. You might have a third or more of the team change each year. Do you change now as a coach the way you approach games? If you're trying to recruit players and you're trying to attract players, are you talking about helping those players and their well-being? Or are you winning at all costs because that's now a sellable tryout feature? We just won the such and such league. We're playing at this level league, right? And it means that half your roster don't get the minutes they need. Gets interesting, right? By the way, these tryouts get done and invitations now start to go out. And again, if we go back here, this is really a false starting point, but I wanted to sort of explain it. Oh yeah, we've got to play a spring league in April and May. We're playing a spring league in April and May with a group of players that you know that is going to turn over in a few more weeks. Anguish. I just wrote anguish. Actually, I googled anguish. Right, let me go anguish. That's just to make sure. Severe mental, physical pain or suffering, distress. I mean, come on, people. Distress, extreme unhappiness, anguish for the coaches too, by the way, anguish for the players. 12-year-old, 11-year-old player are going through that severe mental distress because of this. Because why? They're playing on a team that they've been cut from next year. They're playing on a team that they're leaving next year. They're playing on a team that 3 or 4 of their friends are leaving to go to another club next year. Right, Parker? Thank you, Parker. Thank you. Right? All of these things, that's anguish for kids. And coaches trying to find a way to deliver on a promise. Are they? Delivering on a promise of what? Let's go back to the start. Play development. Why we're different. Long-term development. Really? Long-term development? I'm seeing, I don't know, November, December, January, February, let's say 4 months of training, right? And let's say that's 16 weeks, twice. I mean, maybe it's 30 training sessions. Long-term development? You're joking. No way. So they're now playing, and that's it. And this is the exit plan. It's the end of that team. It's turned over. So that's a problem. Some clubs in our region have now made a pact. They've said things like, we're going to promise that we're not going to do tryouts. Oops, I failed on my pointer. We're not going to do tryouts. I'm messing this up badly. This should move. It won't move. But we're going to do it in May. Okay, well, great. And they've done that little pact, and they've said, sort of, we're solving a problem here. Well, yeah, but you also caused it initially, understandably so, because you're trying to protect your club and your teams and what you want to stand for. Still a difficult thing, isn't it? Because beyond May, there's a tournament in June and a showcase in July. It's still the same scenario. So the answers or solutions? Well, what if you don't have tryouts? What if you kept everybody and you invited everybody back and said, hey, just hold off, people. We'll invite you back in the month of June. Once we're done with our program, we're going to commit to you for this 8-9 months of long-term development, and then we'll invite you back. Everyone's invited back. We've done that as a club for 10 years, 12 years. We've done that as our staff have approached it that way. And we've also struggled with that because guess what other clubs are doing? In March, we've got kids leaving our not being at our training sessions, trying out for ABC United Club in March, not telling anybody, finishing up their season, getting better, doing all the things we're trying to work on, And then it comes to their invitation in June, 2 or 3 months later, to come back to the squad, and it turns out they've left. Oh yeah, such and such is playing for this club now. It's crazy. Well, we're not going to change, but that hurts everybody else. What about commitment? What about staying with your friends? What about the friends that you've made over the last several years, maybe? So this, for me, is a big dysfunction, and I have some potential answers, but the biggest one is a massive collaboration between all the clubs involved. And how difficult would that be? How difficult would that be to talk about this thing at the start that says why you're different? Because guess what? It's not much. People aren't saying things like this. We're different because we treat players this way, and we have a holistic approach, and we have a long-term approach. They're not delivering on that. That they are trying to find a way to scramble to win games really fast, to get good teams together and win stuff, because that's the thing that can potentially happen in the short term. And the long term is that you don't do that, and you try and find a way to keep players together. And we've seen it. We've seen it within our coaching ranks, within my coaching colleagues. Fantastic work. We've got some amazing stories of kids at 12 and 13 not competing very well and sticking with it. And holy heck, at the age of 15, 16, 17, going back and playing some top clubs who have gone through churns and churns of players and evaluation after evaluation and tryout after tryout. And we've gone back there with the same kids 4 years later and beat them. I am not kidding. I'm not going to name names. It's not the place and it's not the point, but it has happened and it has worked. But I also want to finish with this word. If we are all committed, everyone hand in the air, right, to say we're in this for the good of the kids, not the coaches or the clubs or the trophy cabinet, the good of the kids. Why are we allowing this to happen? Someone should probably answer that. We are putting families through that word right there. That word, and this is on the cuff. I didn't prepare this, but I did just want to make sure I spelled the word anguish correctly. Distress, severe pain, unhappiness. We are doing that to our kids. And in some places, we're doing it at the ages of 8, 9, 10, 11, and wondering why they've quit the sport by the time they're 14. Right? Anguish. Why are we doing it? So I'm all about action and walking the walk. Can you be a club or a coach that talks about different things? Can you be a club to stand up for your process, to stand up for your long-term approach? It might mean that your teams bump them down a little bit because you might lose a player or two. Can you find a group of supportive parents to buy into that? And can you then also deliver on getting these kids better and showing true long-term development, whether they win or not? Can you show these parents and these players that they are getting better in a positive environment? Because guess what? That means that we can take that word out. There might be disappointment, there might be whatevers, but there won't be anguish. So that's my video today. Sorry if I sound a little passionate and frustrated, but I just think these questions need to be asked, need to be addressed. Anyway, this is a long one. Thanks for bearing with me with all the noise in the background, and we'll see you again next time. Cheers.